Moreover, you heard from multiple witnesses, including Officer Melissa Sines, Officer Tyler Haddon, and Officer William Gatlin, Isaac Baruch, Alejandro Romero, who saw Ms. Heard on or after May 21st and saw no injuries to her face before she showed up to that courthouse with a mark on May 27th.
So this is what we have been waiting for. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial. On May 27, 2022, both sides gave their closing arguments to the jury, and the jury listened to those arguments from Johnny Depp's legal team and Amber Heard's legal team, and they started deliberations on Friday, May 27. This trial has been very polarizing. There's a lot on the line, and we'll get into exactly what that is. But I want to reiterate what really is at stake here with this trial. On one end of the spectrum, you have Amber Heard. You have the Me Too movement. You have the reputation. I won't say reputation. You have the credibility of survivors of abuse, of people who have actually been abused and sexually assaulted and what have you. You have actual victims, advocates for domestic violence, all tied into Amber Heard based on the allegation she made against Johnny Depp. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Johnny Depp, very successful actor who was accused of heinous crimes, including domestic assault and sexual abuse. And when those allegations were first made by Amber Heard, it ruined his life. He wasn't able to work. He wasn't able to get gigs. He wasn't able to do what he loved, all because of an allegation, not a conviction. So this defamation trial and the conclusion of it is going to have a profound impact on the culture, because based on which side and where the jury decides to go, it's going to have a profound impact on actual victims coming forward in the future, because people are going to be more skeptical if it is proven that Amber Heard was not being true and these were false accusations. And on the other end of the spectrum, based on if Johnny Depp wins, it will give even more skepticism to people whenever they see an allegation or hear about an allegation, due to the increase of those type of allegations due to Me Too. If he's found to be guilty, then it's going to be able to give more credibility to people, I think, who are victims of abuse and coming forward. So there is a lot at stake here. I'm going to get into the actual closing arguments that both sides had to say, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on this. Today is May 28, 2022. It's a weekend right now. On Monday, it's an observance of the Memorial Day holiday, so the jury will not deliberate on that day. So more likely than not, we will get a decision on what's going to happen on Tuesday, May 31st, 2022. So I want to start it with Ben Rottenhorn of Amber Heard's legal team and his closing argument. If this is your first time listening to the Karat Juice podcast, I am your host, Monte Lee. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this content and you enjoy the podcast, do me a favor from our audio listeners. Please rate and review the podcast. 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like, subscribe, share this to someone that you think would enjoy the content. I appreciate you very much for listening and watching. without further delay, let's get right into it because I don't want to waste your time. So let's go right to Benjamin Rottenhorn for his closing argument in this matter.
On May 21st, 2016. And we're going to skip through a little bit of this now, and Elaine will talk about this in the context of the counterclaim, but these are the pictures afterwards. These are pictures that now they're claiming that, oh, they must have been faked. There's been no testimony in this case that these pictures were faked. There's been no testimony that the marks you see on Amber's face, including this mark with a straight line from below her eye to the top of her temple that it lines up directly with a phone. There's been no testimony that those are faked. Mr. Depp went through the house. He destroyed pictures of her friends. That's abuse. Property destruction like that, in and of itself, is abuse. He destroyed her office. He destroyed her friend Rocky Pennington's preparation for the bead show that she was having. He spilled wine in the hallway that you'll notice the police denied. Oh, there was no spilled wine in the hallway. Well, even Isaac Baruch testified that he saw this in the hallway. And they said she never sent anything to her medical providers. These are the texts that she sent to her nurse, Erin Filati, the night that it happened. These are pictures of her in the courtroom. We're not going to play this right now, but you can listen to this. This is that terribly disturbing text of him in July of 2016 threatening to cut himself and telling, "You cut me or I will." You all remember playing that. It was awful. It was awful. I'm not going to play it again, but it was horrible. That in and of itself is abusive. This is the document that Mr. Depp signed, the divorce agreement, where he says, signed in agreement with his signature, neither party has made false accusations for financial gain. He said that then. He could have fought this then, but he didn't because he knew that her allegations were true. But then he continued his campaign of humiliation. He says, "I want her replaced on that WB film." Ladies and gentlemen, the facts are absolutely overwhelming of abuse. One time, that's all you have to remember. Mr. Depp simply cannot prove to you that he never once abused Amber. And if you don't know, you have to return a verdict for Ms. Heard. A ruling against Amber here sends a message that no matter what you do as an abuse victim, you always have to do more. No matter what you document, you always have to document more. No matter whom you tell, you always have to tell more people. No matter how honest you are about your own imperfections and your own shortcomings in a relationship, you need to be perfect in order for people to believe you. Don't send that message. That's what he wants you to send. So I'm going to quickly get to another point that you have to find in order to prove or in order to rule for Mr. Depp. You would have to find that Ms. Heard made the statements with actual malice. Now, what Mr. Chu didn't tell you is that you have to find this by clear and convincing evidence. So this is much higher than the greater weight of the evidence standard that applies to the other claims, the other elements of the claim. Clear and convincing evidence is evidence that creates in your minds a firm belief or conviction that Mr. Depp has proved this issue. So if you believe that Ms. Heard did not act maliciously in writing her op-ed, then you must return a verdict for Ms. Heard, even if you think that he never abused her. But I'll quickly go over the evidence of this. The op-ed, you look at the words, it clearly wasn't a hit piece. She visited her attorney, Eric George, who testified by video that his objective was to make sure that there could be no meritorious claim that could be brought about this article relating to defamation. He gave Ms. Heard advice. She affirmatively followed all of it. So you cannot find that Ms. Heard met the clear and convincing evidence standard, given the testimony of Eric George, given the testimony of Terrence Doherty from the ACLU, when Amber went out of her way to ask her lawyer if it was okay. They will say it doesn't matter if she's lying, but even if that isn't, they will say that that doesn't matter if she's lying, but even that isn't true, because again,
I just want to pause it here for one moment to kind of highlight something he said. So he said that for the jury must they must find that there was actual malice on behalf of Amber Heard writing the op-ed for them to prove that there was actually defamation, which is what Johnny Depp is suing her for. So he said that you have to prove, there has to be a burden of proof that there was actual malice behind the op-ed, or you need to return a verdict in favor of his client, Amber Heard. He also said that, I don't know if you caught this, he also said, even if you think that she wasn't abused, you need to return a verdict for her, but if it's not proven that there's actual malice. I am flabbergasted at the legal system and how there's so much things that get convoluted in it and whatever. Basically, his argument is, out of all of these allegations she's made, out of all of these claims she's made, which a lot of them don't seem to be credible based on the evidence I've seen in this trial, it only needs to be one for her to be tied to being a victim of domestic violence or abuse, and you have to rule in favor of her. Basically, his argument is she only needed to tell the truth one time. And if it was one time, you need to rule in favor of Amber Heard. My response to that is, bruh. Let's continue.
Keep in mind that if Ms. Heard wanted to be malicious toward Mr. Depp, the article would be very different. And I think it's interesting here, we'll talk about Mr. Waldman in a second, but that Amber utilized her attorney, Eric George, to make sure that she was following the law. Mr. Depp used his attorney, Adam Waldman, as an attack dog to defame Amber and to fulfill Depp's promise to her of global humiliation. The last thing I'll touch on before Elaine talks is Mr. Depp's damages. The man's at least consistent in one respect. He blames other people for his problems, everyone but himself. You heard us reading the stack of articles dating years before he broke up with Amber, before their marriage broke apart, talking about his problems, talking about the fact that his movies were flops, talking about the fact that he was late to the set, that he's unreliable as an actor. A word of reminder here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the only thing Amber ever did that Mr. Depp is allowed to sue her for is the op-ed. He's trying to say, I want to sue her for what she said in 2016. I want to sue her for harm that was caused then. You cannot do that. The only thing you're being asked to decide are the words of the op-ed defamatory. Nothing else. Any damage to Mr. Depp's career is self-caused. Then think about the testimony that you've heard from his former business manager, Joel Mandel, said that Depp had issues with drugs and alcohol that damaged his career. Depp sued him. His former agent, Tracy Jacobs, said he was late to the set and that he used an earpiece. Depp fired her. She said Disney never committed to Pirate 6. Disney's corporate representative, Tina Newman, said that there was no record in Disney's records of this op-ed. This op-ed had nothing to do with it. In fact, Catherine Arnold, our damages expert, testified that the paper version of the article that allegedly they say came out 4 days after the op-ed was published the same day as the op-ed that said that Johnny might not be in Pirate 6. The same day. The paper article came out the same day. So the op-ed didn't cause that. There's no evidence of any contract by Disney for Pirate 6. His agent, Jack Wiggum, couldn't identify a contract. His former agent, Christian Carino, said that there's no contract. He didn't lose anything as a result of this op-ed. Anything he's lost is the result of his own choices. You also heard him lie to you. You heard him tell you that this was his first chance to tell his story. But let's break it down, because that's not true. He could have fought the TRO that Amber filed. He could have said, I didn't abuse her, but he chose not to do that. He could have fought her in the divorce case, but he chose not to do that. Instead, he signed the statement saying that no one had falsified any statements. He only filed this suit after he met Adam Waldman, the same Adam Waldman who convinced him to file suit against his former business manager, to file suit against his law firm, and fire them, and blame them for things. But by the time that Amber wrote the op-ed, Mr. Depp already had another opportunity to tell his story. He filed a case in the UK against the Sun for calling him a wife beater. And in that case, he had many of the same witnesses. He was on the stand for parts of 5 days, and he got to tell the fact finder in the UK whatever he wanted. Now, it's not the same testimony he told here, because you heard me impeach him about 13 times with his testimony from the UK. But he's had his chances. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to tell Mr. Depp that this was his last chance. Tell him to move on with his life. Tell him to let Amber move on with hers. stand up for the freedom of speech. Stand up for the First Amendment. This trial is about so much more than Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. It's about the freedom of speech. Stand up for it, protect it, and reject Mr. Depp's claims against Amber. And now you'll hear from Ms. Beretta Haupt about the counterclaim.
So just to surmise what he was saying there, this is what I got out of it. Basically what he is saying that is this trial is not about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Benjamin Rottenhorn, closing argument and point is, this is about freedom of speech. And if you do not rule, jury, in favor of Amber Heard, you will be damaging every American's right to freedom of speech. That's his argument. That's what he laid out. These attorneys can be very convincing, but you have to look at the totality of things. You have to look at the nuance and all of the evidence and everything that was happening behind the scenes. I understand that under this case, the reason why Johnny Depp filed for the defamation was due to the op-ed and what it caused and how it damaged his career. But does anybody really think in your mind that you should only look at that one op-ed when trying to determine if the person who's making the accusations is credible? I think there's more to the story here. So that's their position. It's a freedom of speech issue. And out of all the allegations she's made, out of all the claims she's made, heinous, not everything, all the pictures she's produced that don't show much, and some of them have also been proven to be doctored in some way. Amber Heard's legal team's position and their argument is she only had to be truthful when stating one thing out of all that. That's their position. So now we are going to transition and we're going to go over to Johnny Depp's legal team and what their closing argument was and what attorney Camille Vasquez has to say about this matter in their closing arguments when it comes to Johnny's position. So let's go to Camille Vasquez for their closing arguments to the jury.
Heard and Whitney testified that Mr. Depp threw a Red Bull can that hit or almost hit Miss Lloyd. Miss Lloyd testified that never happened. Mr. McGivern testified that it was Miss Heard who threw a can at Mr. Depp. Miss Heard testified that Whitney was between her and Mr. Depp when she punched him. Mr. McGivern testified that he was the one between Miss Heard and Mr. Depp when Miss Heard punched Mr. Depp. Miss Heard testified that Mr. Depp was able to get his hands in her hair, yank her, and then hit her in the face with the cast he had on. But you heard from Miss Lloyd and Dr. Colbert, Mr. Depp's medical doctor, who treated Mr. Depp's finger injury, that Mr. Depp's finger was in a delicate state. He had a pin in his finger, a skin graft, and a soft cast that immobilized Mr. Depp's two middle fingers. And tellingly, the only picture of an injury from this incident is of Mr. Depp with a shiner. And then we have May 21st, 2016. Ms. Heard testified that Mr. Depp threw a phone at her face, causing a visible injury. Ms. Heard has shown you pictures she claims to show this injury. But these photographs are not to be trusted. You heard from Mr. Neumeister that like many of the photographs Ms. Heard has presented in this case, these photos were stored in a photo editing application. And these photos show signs of manipulation. These two photographs were taken at the exact same time and have the exact same file name, but they are visually different. One shows significantly more redness on Ms. Heard's face than the other, which doesn't show any injury at all. Ms. Heard testified that the difference is explained by turning on a light. But there is no way Ms. Heard could have taken a picture, turned on a light, and then taken another picture with every hair in the exact same place within the same second. It's impossible. Moreover, you heard from multiple witnesses, including Officer Melissa Sines, Officer Tyler Haddon, and Officer William.
I want to pause it right there. Did you guys just catch that? Camille Vasquez argues that the photograph produced by Amber Heard when she alleged that Johnny Depp threw a phone at her and hit her in the face was stored in a photo editing app. There's two pictures side by side that were shown there, the same exact name and time. One picture shows no visible damage to her face. The other one shows it's a lot of contrast and redness in her face area. So you could put two and two together. What happened with that photo when Amber Heard produced evidence with her allegations? This is the nuance that I'm talking about that's important. How credible is a victim if they've made multiple allegations, but upon the evidence, it's shaky, there's doctored photographs, etc.? So that is what Johnny Depp's legal team is pointing out in this situation, and they have an argument. Let's continue with Camille Vasquez's argument.
Exact same place within the same second. It's impossible. Moreover, you heard from multiple witnesses, including Officer Melissa Sines, Officer Tyler Haddon, and Officer William Gatlin, Isaac Baruch, Alejandro Romero, who saw Ms. Heard on or after May 21st and saw no injuries to her face before she showed up to that courthouse with a mark on May 27th. And the very next day, after Ms. Heard walked into court with what appeared to be a bruise on her face to obtain a domestic violence restraining order against Mr. Depp, Ms. Heard was photographed laughing with her best friend, fresh-faced, with no bruise on her face.
Check that out right there. That's quite interesting. Look at her face there. Same day, no bruise. Let's continue.
The mountain of evidence that Mr. Depp abused Ms. Heard is simply not there. What we have is a mountain of unproven allegations that are wild, over the top, and implausible. And you can't pick and choose which of these wild allegations to believe and which ones to disregard. You either believe all of it or none of it. Either Mr. Depp sexually assaulted Ms. Heard with a bottle in Australia, or Ms. Heard got up on that stand in front of all of you and made up that horrific tale of abuse. Either she's a victim of truly horrific abuse, or she is a woman who is willing to say absolutely anything.
Whoa. Pay attention to what she just said there. Multiple allegations, multiple unproven allegations against Johnny Depp. One of those allegations was Amber Heard alleging that Johnny Depp sexually assaulted her with a wine bottle. or a liquor bottle, excuse me. She got up on the stand and testified to that in the courtroom. And what Camille Vasquez just highlighted was this. You either believe all of it or none of it. And Amber Heard is the type of person that would get up in court and lie about sexual abuse. If she's somebody that would do that and lie about something like that, is that somebody that you can trust anything that they say? That is a valid argument, and I want to hear Camille say that portion one more time, because she does it a lot better than me.
Or none of it. Either Mr. Depp sexually assaulted Ms. Heard with a bottle in Australia, or Ms. Heard got up on that stand in front of all of you and made up that horrific tale of abuse. Either she's a victim of truly horrific abuse, or she is a woman who is willing to say absolutely anything. It is disturbing to think that Ms. Heard would make up the horrific tales of abuse that she testified to in this courtroom. But this case doesn't come down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp. This case comes down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp, Christy Dombrowski, Sean Bett, Malcolm Connolly, Travis McGivern, Starling Jenkins, Keenan Wyatt, Dr. Kipper, nurses Debbie Lloyd and Aaron Filati, Tara Roberts, Ben King, Kate James, Kate Moss, Dr. Colber, Morgan Knight, Morgan Tremaine, Officers Melissa Sines, Officers Tyler Haddon, Officer William Gatlin, and Beverly Leonard. What Ms. Heard testified to in this courtroom is the story of far too many women. But the overwhelming evidence and weight of that evidence shows that it is not her story. It's not Ms. Heard's story. It was an act of profound cruelty, not just to Mr. Depp, but to true survivors of domestic abuse. For Ms. Heard to hold herself out as a public figure representing domestic abuse. It was false, it was defamatory, and it caused irreparable harm. And to talk more about that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and my friend, Mr. Chu.
There you have it. The closing arguments of Johnny Depp's legal team, headed by Camille Vasquez. The final portion of her argument that I wanted to highlight was this, and I've said this multiple times. False accusations harm not only the person who is accused, if it's proven to be false, but it harms actual victims of abuse, actual victims of sexual crime, actual victims who have been battered and abused. Because anytime there is a false accusation and it's proven to be false, what it does is it makes everybody more skeptical anytime they hear an allegation, and that harms actual victims. I want these to be taken serious, and I am glad that Johnny Depp filed this defamation lawsuit, because it is very important for everybody to, it has been important and very impactful for everybody to see all of the evidence, to hear about all of the evidence, to listen to those recordings, to listen to all the things that have been said on both sides, and to get a full picture of what is going on here. Do I think Johnny Depp is an abuser? No. Do I think Johnny Depp is somebody who has a temper, somebody who has been married, been getting into arguments with somebody who is very argumentative, and while doing that, have some tense flare-ups and moments? Yes. But it's not just that. Does that make you an abuser? Does having arguments, to having a temper, to having tension at times in your relationship, does that make you an abuser? No. I think anybody with common sense can understand that. But is it the same on the opposite end, where if you are somebody like Amber Heard, a woman accusing a man, and let's just flip it. If Amber Heard was a male and Johnny Depp was a female, and you reverse it and you hear all those recordings, you hear the person belittling the other person, you hear that, she admitted to hitting him in some of those recordings. Everything. If you turn and you switch the genders, I don't think we would even have gotten this far at all. There would be no doubt in anybody's mind that Johnny Depp is the victim of violence. I find it very strange that we have to go through all of this, a full trial, weeks and weeks of testimony, because Amber Heard made allegations about abuse that derailed a man's career. And it's been clear, okay? It has been clear during this trial, in my humble opinion, that Amber Heard has not been truthful. She's made claims about being sexually abused. She's talked about how she's had all of these different bruises on her face, how she was punched by Johnny Depp, somebody who wears rings on his hands at all times. And she talked about being punched by him multiple times. And then the next day going on a talk show, no bruises, no bruising, whatever. Do I think she's credible? No. However, it's not up to me. And the final decision is going to be in the hands of the jury. What is the jury going to do? That is the question. And that is what we are waiting for. I can't wait to hear and cover what happens after that. This has been quite the roller coaster ride when it comes to this trial, when it comes to what we have going on, period, when it comes to the amount of people who are invested in this trial boggles the mind, because the Me Too movement really changed so much when it comes to dating dynamics between men and women. A lot of men have put precautions in place, things in place in the workplace, where a lot of men who are successful, or men who are not even successful, they don't even want to be in a room alone with a woman, with a colleague, because they don't want the opportunity to be accused of doing something untoward. So if Amber Heard is proven to be lying and she defamed Johnny Depp, she needs to pay for that. And I think it's going to be very hard for her to get any type of work. I don't think any studio is going to want to be attached to her moving forward. Vice versa, I think based on the evidence displayed in this trial, all the stuff that I've seen, either way you slice it, I think Johnny Depp has won. People have seen that all of this evidence or lack thereof coming from the Amber Heard's legal team only proves that Johnny Depp is not the abuser that he is claimed to be. And I think he's going to get more work from this. I think a lot of the people, the studios that are looking at this are just like, they're seeing all of this too. And they're just like, he clearly looks like the person who was being battered and abused in this situation, in my humble opinion. So what say you? This has been a bonus episode of the Carrot Juice podcast. There is still more things that's going to be developing here. Tuesday is going to be crazy. I think we'll get a verdict on Tuesday. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to be favored by the jury and win their respective defamation lawsuits? And also, what do you think this means for Me Too, false accusations, and for dating moving forward, period? I'm interested in knowing what you guys think. Hey, and if you're listening to this on the audio version, I really appreciate you. Do me a favor, as it helps out immensely. Please go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, leave me a rating and a review. 5-star, 5-star, 5-star is greatly appreciated. I am also on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. You can follow me there for clips from the podcast. You also can visit carrotjuicepodcast.com to get additional information about the podcast, links to related content. I also have information on there about productivity if you want to become a content creator and create your own podcast. So, like I say every time with the Carrot Juice podcast, this is a bonus episode, but love somebody, hug somebody, do something good for somebody, not expecting anything in return. And I will see you guys for another full episode of the podcast on Tuesday, where hopefully we'll have the verdict and I'll be able to give my thoughts on the conclusion of this very wild trial that involves Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So until we speak again, I'll see you guys. Peace.